The Beverly Hillbillies, a tale of love and new beginnings. Listen to a story about a man named Jed who was a poor mountaineer and barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up to the ground come a bubbling crude. Oil, that is. Black gold.
Texas tea.
Well, the first thing you know, old Jed is a millionaire. The kinfolk said, Jed, move away from there. They said California is the place you ought to be. So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly Hills, that is. Swimming pools. Movie stars. The Beverly Hillbillies. On a bright afternoon near the old homestead, Granny turned to look at the horizon with a squint in her eye. She asked if Ellie Mae and that Templeton boy had come back yet. Ma replied that they had not, and that Ellie Mae was still showing him around the farm. Shorty stood nearby, watching the quiet landscape. Ma remarked to Shorty that those two were surely meant for each other and called it a marriage made in heaven. She suggested they should hold the wedding in the little wilderness church down there. Granny seemed quite certain, but others had their doubts. One of the kinfolk asked how she could be so sure that he was going to get married since Ellie Mae and that young woodchop had only just met. Granny insisted that a voice came in the night calling loud and clear, saying that Matthew Templeton is going to marry Ellie Mae Clampett. She claimed Jed heard it too. Jed had apparently responded by pounding on the wall and telling everyone to shut up. Granny was wishing to make it so and believed she would have them two on their honeymoon before anyone knew it. Shorty asked what might happen if Ellie Mae took him inside the mill. He mentioned the cake that Ellie had baked, which was currently being used as a millstone. It seemed Beck Bozeman was grinding corn with it. Jed and Shorty had tried to buy it back, but the miller would not sell it. The fellow who runs that mill had bought the cake at the cake baking contest. Someone expressed a wish to see it, but another suggested the cake had surely been eaten by now. Granny mentioned that the fellow made the finest brooms in District of Columbia or Yale. She noted that the best wedding present for a new bride is a new broom. When Shorty returned, Granny asked if he was back yet. She was excited because the young woodchopper was in for a real treat. She had prepared a brace of possums in the oven along with hog jowls and turnip greens. There were grits and squirrel gravy, corn pone, and Chitlin's hush puppies and her special huckleberry pie. Just then, Ellie Mae arrived. Granny asked if she had a nice walk and if she had worked up a good appetite. Ellie Mae said she could eat a bear. Granny told her to hurry to the kitchen and get busy fixing all the traditional dishes. Ellie Mae thought it would be an awful lot of work, but Granny knew she could handle it. Matthew Templeton commented that it was the best huckleberry pie he had ever tasted. Ellie did not like to take credit for anything. Granny praised Ellie Mae as a wonderful housekeeper and cook. She claimed Ellie could take care of a dozen babies and make clothes for them at the same time using beautiful material she wove herself. Matthew was impressed and called her a remarkable girl. He said the fellow who gets her is going to be a mighty lucky man. Granny decided to cut right through the rind and get to the milk, asking Matthew if he would be interested in marrying Ellie Mae. Matthew replied that indeed he would be proud and honored. Meanwhile, word reached Mr. Drysdale in California. He was told that Ellie needed a dowry and that Miss Hathaway had been sent to take care of things. However, it seemed Miss Jane was out in the woods trying to find a man for herself instead. Mr. Drysdale was frustrated and promised to be on the next plane. He was told to bring $85 million for the dowry. He worried about who would take care of the critters, but was told they would be looked after. At the little church, everyone agreed it was a dandy place for a wedding. Granny was busy with the details. She encountered Alverna Bradshaw and introduced Matthew Templeton as the man who was going to marry Ellie Mae. Alverna seemed shocked and a bit green with envy. She claimed her own future son-in-law Robert Holloway resembled Mr. Templeton but was taller and broader. Then Miss Jane appeared from the forest, leading a man. She claimed he was no Adonis but finders keepers. It turned out to be Robert Holloway, who had run into a tree and lost his glasses. Alverna was in a rage and called it a humiliating experience. Despite the chaos, Granny felt it was the happiest day of her life. They decided to rehearse the wedding. Jed was told to fetch the bride and put her hand in the hand of the groom. Shorty was standing in as the groom for the rehearsal, but he wished he was the real one. Jethro was acting as the best man, but felt like a dummy. He wanted to go fishing instead. Granny insisted on running through it again. Ellie Mae went to change into something pretty and put a little vanilla extract behind her ear. Matthew Templeton arrived after splitting 50 rails that morning. He believed in hard work, as the good book says. Jed and the others were impressed. Matthew mentioned he had a big family a few miles beyond Possum Ridge. Jed invited the whole family over for a fish supper. Miss Jane planned to go bird watching in the forest, using a special lure. Ellie Mae appeared looking beautiful, and Matthew was struck by her appearance. Granny kept praising Ellie's cooking and humor. Later, Alverna Bradshaw returned with Robert Holloway. Granny teased them about their bet and how Alverna would be eating crow. Back at the house, Mr. Drysdale arrived in disguise, wearing old work clothes. He was looking for the bank of Bug Tussle to keep the Clampett money in his control. He found out the bank was the only building in town. He decided to buy the bank but needed a way to get there. He ended up on a donkey, which Miss Jane called a worthless, money-hungry bum. As the sun began to set on the hills, the community prepared for a celebration of love and family values that would be remembered for generations to come.